Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'll be ranking my personal top 10 games of 2023. I'm going to be honest, this was a tough list to make. 2023 had some amazing games, and unfortunately I wasn't able to play every single one of them. But the games that I have played are pretty incredible. But before we get into the list, if you like this video, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Also, the games in this list are games that came out in 2023, and I decided not to include remasters or light remakes, so games like Metroid Prime and Super Mario RPG will not be making it into the list, even though I really enjoyed those titles. So, with that said, let's get into the first game. Sonic Superstars is a weird one. I really enjoyed the first half of the game a ton. The levels felt fresh, and Sonic in this 3D style looks great. I still prefer 2D Sonic with the pixel art, but this art style was bright and expressive, so I don't really mind. It seemed like they wanted to make this game the new Super Mario Bros. Wii experience with the introduction of 4-player co-op. However, I went through the game in single player, so I don't really know how the co-op experience is. But like I said, the first half was great, but the second half of the game is filled with levels that had cheap deaths, and just the level design as a whole kind of left me a little frustrated. I just didn't really enjoy playing through some of these levels. I think the character-specific stages are cool, but I also thought that those were lacking as well. I still like the game, but I just had some issues with it as a whole. Assassin's Creed Mirage is an odd mix of old and new Assassin's Creed games. It has things that I really like, but also some things that I just don't. I did a review of this game earlier this year, so please check that out for a more in-depth look. But let's just say that Assassin's Creed Mirage is a good step in the right direction for me as a fan of the more traditional elements of the series. I still recommend it to anyone who has ever been a fan of the Assassin's Creed series. It has a lot of neat elements, and the parkour is pretty decent, but there are some things that traditional fans may not like as much, but that's just stuff that you have to get over in order to enjoy the rest of the game. Final Fantasy XVI was a great game, even though I personally had some issues with it. I love the cast of characters, the world, and the story. Well, most of it. Graphically, it is stunning with impressive lighting effects. I have some mixed emotions on this game, and it's hard for me to articulate, because while I do like those elements mentioned, there are gameplay elements that I didn't like as much. The combat is sometimes fun and flashy, but I didn't enjoy how there wasn't as much in terms of basic combos outside of the icon abilities. And then you have these big zones that have little to actually do in them, leaving them feeling empty. But even with that said, I still enjoyed this game. It just wasn't as much as I was hoping for. Jedi Survivor was the long-awaited sequel to Fallen Order, and what a game this is. It has its technical issues, but I really liked how they opened up some of the areas to make exploration more enjoyable this time around. I really like the new abilities, and I enjoy the difficult combat. Overall, it's just a solid game. HiFi Rush was a huge surprise. Again, check out my review if you want a more in-depth look, but HiFi Rush is a rhythm action game, and man was it a blast. I personally didn't find a ton of replay value in this title, but I don't care. It was such a fun game to just blast through, learning new combos and earning new characters to your party. The writing is excellent, with the main character Chai being a standout goofball. I love these characters, and I would love to see a sequel in the future. I know it's crazy to put SpiderMan II in the middle of this ranking, but that just goes to show how packed this year was. I love SpiderMan II, another great game for Spider-Man. Being able to play both Spider-Men was the perfect way to go about this game. Although I would have liked more unique attributes to them, They fight very similarly, which is fine, but I would have loved to see even more unique skills with them. I loved how they expanded New York to reach beyond the first game. The story and characters are incredible, which is no surprise. Although I will say that the first Spider-Man game had a better story, but overall, Spider-Man 2 is just more of that Spider-Man goodness. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is straight up wonderful. I don't know how else to say it. The art style and animation is a huge step from the 2D Mario games before it. The colors are just so vibrant, it almost makes every other Mario game look muted. It's crazy. They added new skills in the form of badges, giving you special perks or even new moves for you to pull off. I would love for them to bring this feature back in the future. The Wonder Flower mechanic brings a whole new twist into the game. The online was so unique, and while I do like a more traditional online experience, this was done so well, and I really enjoy playing with random people like this. It's really hard to even nitpick this game because it is so confident in what it is, and it's not afraid to be a 2D game through and through. Sea of Stars was one of my most anticipated games of 2023, so I am very happy to report that this game lived up to the hype for me. Inspired by classic JRPGs, Sea of Stars has it all. A colorful cast of characters, an engaging turn-based combat system, and a world filled with deep lore and mystery. I love this game. And again, if you want to know more of my thoughts on Sea of Stars, check out this review on the channel. These last two were really tough for me. I am not kidding when I say that I have flip-flopped between these two back and forth when deciding which should be my game of the year. Baldurs Gate 3 is a landmark title and will be talked about for years to come. An RPG within the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Baldurs Gate 3 gives you some of the most freedom I have seen in a game. Not with the traversing of the world, but instead with your choices. There are so many ways for you to interact with this game, it's insane. You could try to avoid battles or intimidate your foes so you don't have to fight them. There are so many ways to go about each and every scenario. The intro to the game can be slow, but once you get past the first couple of hours, the game really starts to open up and click. You can also go through the campaign with friends online and couch co-op. I have been playing with my wife and we are both having a ton of fun. She is especially good at getting us into some trouble. But with that said, because I have been playing on PS5 and couch co-op for the majority of my playtime, I have experienced many technical issues. Now I know that the game in single player plays much better, but I have been playing mostly in multiplayer, so that isn't my personal experience. That is why I decided to make Baldurs Gate 3 my number 2 instead of my number 1. If I played through the game in single player or the technical issues weren't in the multiplayer, then Baldurs Gate 3 would probably be my number 1 game of the year. But with that said, it is an amazing game and absolutely deserved to win Game of the Year at this year's Game Awards. It is a masterpiece that I'll be going back to time and time again. Tears of the Kingdom has been one of my most anticipated games since Breath of the Wild. It may not have had the staying power that the previous title had, but Tears of the Kingdom builds so much on top of the incredible foundation that Breath of the Wild sets. It introduces new abilities that have a bigger impact on the gameplay and the world around you. Being able to build vehicles and contraptions for traversal and puzzles was so fun and so intuitive. The controls might be a little tough to get used to at first, but Tears of the Kingdom does a great job at making it as user-friendly as possible. The Sky Islands are a joy to explore, and the depths beneath Hyrule is vast. They looked at Breath of the Wild and said, let's do that, but just add all of this crazy stuff. And it was awesome, for the most part. I feel like both the Sky region and the depths below could have done a bit more to make the overall experience better. But as a whole, Tears of the Kingdom is a technical masterpiece. The fact that you can go from the sky to the underworld with no loading screens is still insane to me. It may have its issues, but Tears of the Kingdom accomplished what it set out to do. Make a bigger, denser world with loads of things to explore and discover. And it is my game of the year for 2023. Like I said earlier, those last two games were so hard for me to pick between for game of the year, but either way, I am so glad that 2023 had so much going for it in terms of video game releases. It was so packed that I didn't even get to play all of the big name stuff. I still haven't played Pikmin 4 or Hogwarts Legacy, but that's enough for me and my opinions. I want to hear from you in the comments below. What is your game of the year? Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless.